celebration. It was great. Saw the flowers and it was wonderful. I was in New York City. Yes, we paid enough money for it. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, down the hands, our Cape City Clerk, Ms. Lisa Knight.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, July 5th. We have approval of minutes from June the 28th.
That's good.
Public hearings, I'm sorry, Bills. We have request for waiver of the noise ordinance on November 5th from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. And this is on Sprinkle Avenue.
Good.
July the 9th, from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. in McNally Park.
Good.
July 16th, from 3:30 to 8:30 p.m. on South Broad Street. Public hearing today is a public hearing to consider approval of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Brown's non-emergency medical transportation service to operate a shuttle. Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Michael Pierce is canceled. Darlene Martin, program that she has. Linya Green regarding assistance with her food pantry.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, is there going to be anybody from the city that can answer her request for assistance? I know we've directed her a few times, but if we can just again link her up, maybe we just let her talk and go. Okay, thanks.
June Jones, from Mobile Parks and Recreation Department and YMCA effect on seniors. Reverend Alan Taylor regarding redistricting.
Mr. Jones, were you talking about Ms. Martin or Ms. Green?
Ms. Green.
Ms. Green, okay.
Yeah, she's come to me numerous times and I've offered solutions and it's not working, so.
Because the city does have food pantries in
Yes.
District 2, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which district two, pantry you want?
Well, Ms. Green, I believe that she's really been going around the whole city to assist. Madam Clerk.
Ordinances held over 64036, rezoning property located at the east side of North University Boulevard at the east terminus of Bavarian Drive, south from R1 to B2. This was held over for 2 weeks and we've been asked to move it up. Yeah, bring it back.
Yeah, this is the one I talked about last week. The developer has held a meeting, I went to it, and there should be no problem, so I'm gonna go ahead and move it back up so we can get it approved.
Resolutions held over 21-524, authorized contract with Water Institute of Gulf for citywide resilience assessment and plan. 08554, approved purchase orders for fuel. 08555, approved purchase order to Harold's for fertilizer for Azalea City Golf Course. 08556, approved by item-based bid for safety rated leather work boots. Consent resolutions being introduced. 01558, authorizing interlocal agreement with the city of Birmingham to provide bomb techs and equipment for the 11th edition of the World Games in Birmingham, July the 7th through the 17th. 09.
Whoa.
Okay.
Sarah.
Oh, is this, do we already have it put, or is this a purchase?
No, this is people.
Just people? Okay.
09559, reallocate $10,500 from the city council discretionary accounts to the Parks and Recreation Department to assist with providing transportation to out-of-state track events.
Thank you all for that, for the mobile parks area. Mobile track.
Okay. $37,560. Recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special events retail license to Lit Cigar Lounge for Saturdays at the Poop on July 9th. 60, 561, 562, 563 are determined appropriations to Opportunity for Entertainers and Performing Arts, Hickory Ridge Homeowners Association, Magnolia Place Homeowners Association, Serve a Public Purpose, and approving 65, 64, authorizing award of special bonus to firefighter of the month. Resolutions being introduced, 01565, authorize a project terminal agreement with the Mobile Airport Authority for $30 million.
Could we get some information about this?
Yes, happy to.
Good morning.
One more.
What you have before you is a project development agreement with regard to the $30 million in funding that had been allocated for this project by the city. This is the document which allows those funds to be provided for the project itself. Chris Curry, the President Director of MA, is here as well to answer any specific questions that you have about the project. But in terms of the project agreement in front of you, the $30 million is divided into 4 payments, with the first tranche of $15 million being payable within 30 days of approval of this agreement, and then the following 3 payments of $5 million each tied to percentages of completion that are certified by their engineer of record, their probably the program manager more than likely, at the 25% mark, the 50% mark, and the 75% mark. The funding will be tied to the terminal construction itself, although the funds can be used for the terminal, the required airfield improvements, the landside improvements related to the terminal, and the new parking deck. So that's the basics of the agreement.
Council? Everybody good? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
08566, approve purchase order to Gulf Coast Marine Supply for excavator for the forestry department, $18,600.93. 08567, approve purchase order to Cyrus Ford for Ford Explorer for neighborhood development, $30,630. 08568, approve purchase order to Samsung Equipment for garbage truck for motor pool, $197,041.30.
Question?
Ms. Gregory?
It's not really about this particular truck, but I don't see Jim, but Shonda is here. I've just noticed around some of the neighborhoods lately, a lot of the older trucks are having to be used. Do we have some trucks that are down?
Yes,
And I know always there are some, but
yes, they're being fixed on, so they'll rotate them in and we keep them, so we have a backup so that we don't get behind.
I mean, is it a number of trucks that are down or just normal or
Just normal.
just normal?
Mhm.
08569, approve purchase order to Carousel Technology for subscription for cloud backup software for MIT, $27,648. 21570, authorized contract with Invasive Management for herbicide spraying. 21571, authorized contract with 2Cs for right-of-way and ditch mowing. 21572, authorized contract for best price services for right-of-way ditch mowing. 21573, authorized contract with Village Monument for hurricane repairs, grave stone repairs at Church Street Graveyard, $4,500.
Mr. President.
Good, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, just have a general question. The federal government has got what we call a GSA contract, which is a service contract, where companies bid to provide services, and the government will allocate them a set amount of funding for general service contracts. If a government entity then requires a bid or a service to be let, they don't have to bid it out. They just go and request that service from the company that's already in their system, that's already bid, that's got that service ready to go. Do we do that in here, and can we do that? Is that a possible course of action? Because one thing that I'm hearing, we are short on staff, and a lot of it deals with public works. So if we had something like that, and we had these general service contracts already let, and lenders that were available, it seems like we cut down on the administrative overhead and time to go ahead and let some of these contracts. I'm just wondering if we have anything like that with the city.
We don't. We have a state bid list, which we have a state bid list which we operate on for some items. And then we don't bid necessarily professional services. But I think Mr. Daves asked a very similar question a couple of weeks ago, and we're actually working on a process for putting that in front of you all. When Mr. Daves asked that question about the amount, and so we're absolutely working on that, and we'll include, again, what you're asking for is the GSA list, something very similar. We'll include that in what we're working on, at least try to get as close to it as possible so that we're not dealing with the backlog. And it is a legitimate problem. I know you all know that as the council. Your projects are being held up. So you can expect that in the next couple of weeks or next few weeks.
I know it works extremely well for the federal government, especially on the DOD side that I've seen, is you've got, it's just a request and the service is there because all of the administrative parts already been vetted, approved, and they've already been set aside to do that work. When the work's available, there's a cap that both the government entity and the service provider have to abide within. So it just seems like something to be extremely useful when we're short-staffed as we are to have that available and be able to turn some of these things in a lot shorter period with a lot less paperwork.
And we'll work on that, and then we also want to make sure that we're consistent with our DBE and local analysis too, so we don't lose anything just because that's the hoops we're jumping through.
Are we talking about professional services here? Or
No,
are we talking
no.
about, all right, so we should already have one contract in place that we use for this, and that's our disaster cleanup restoration. That's a 3-year contract that we normally let with an option on it, with an option where it's a % match to determine whether or not it becomes a FEMA mission or if the city has to put up insurance for it. I think we work sort of like that when we need emergency services. We have a problem, I think it's Thompson was one, we just have to go through this process with their contract. We have Thompson on one end and one on the other, but we have to go through this process. Normally, these contracts are capacity contracts that are not funded when the federal government sets them aside. They're either CMS or GSA, they call them construction management services or general service administration contracts that are capacity only unfunded. And they're only funded at a time of need, and they'll give for a number of years, which is great. But the state, the way we're set up in the state, I don't think we can put aside any contract unless we have it fully funded first. We don't have to have the money in place before we set aside a contract unless we're gonna put that money in place and hold it. It's a great idea, but I think we have to set up a process that has that money in place, because municipalities normally don't let contracts unless that money is in place before we do
Yeah,
it.
that's exactly what, it's two different things we're talking about.
Yeah, that's similar to like the JOC contract in
That's
other
what
states
JOC
where
contract.
you have a certain number of folks that have applied to be into that pool.
Right.
But you can use them at any time to work on projects under a certain dollar amount.
As long as we have the funds. in
As long
place.
as you have the funds
That's
available,
right.
but you do because you already have the projects
So,
there.
I've been asking for years for us to do job order contracts here, so we.
We're
haven't
working
had
on it.
We're working on
We're
it.
working on it.
And Mr. Daves, I think, asked that question a couple of weeks ago, and we'll get something in front of you all in the next few weeks, maybe 3.
Can I go back to the ditches? Of course, during the summertime, the mowing is, are we doing more with the slow mowers? I think we bought some slow mowers recently to get into the ditches. Because
Yes.
of course, we're hearing a whole lot more about come clean out our ditch, it's really overgrown. And we hear that more, of course, in spring and summer. Just wondering, especially as we do these, contracts with these different companies, if there is a way to do more in the ditches themselves, with cleanup during the season. I mean, I know it's different than just plain old mowing, but we get so many phone calls during this part of the year about the ditches overgrown, can you come out and fix them? We're just way behind on being able to get out and work in the ditches.
Yeah,
We're
I will tell you, our
so-
biggest issue has been staffing.
Yeah.
So it's having the crews to be able to keep up with the,
Well, exactly, that's why I was wondering if there were any private contractors that could do something like this, not just plain old mowing, but to get into the ditches and help clean those as well.
we hadn't done that. The additional funds we used were to pick up those extra mowing sites that we picked up. We didn't do it in order to cover that, the ditch cleaning. So we were still doing that internally.
They don't have slow blowers though, do they, the private companies?
Some of them, so if we bid it out and say that's what we're looking for, then that's what they're required to have, but most mowing companies don't have that.
And that's one of our issues that we have ongoing.
21574, authorized contract with Johnson Controls for security camera equipment and installation at the city probation office, $33,930. 37575, consider approval of a certificate of public convenience and necessity for Allen's non-emergency medical transportation to operate a shuttle service. Call for public hearings, 41576, call for public hearing to rezone property located at 16, 18, 20, and 22 South Florida Street from R1 and B2 to R3, scheduled August 2nd. Announcements.
Council?
Sort of committee meeting item, like, we've got some things coming up, some off-campus things. What is it, list?
Yeah, you don't know right off, Cassandra, committee meetings just coming up.
The only one is the one with LAD on July 19th.
July 19th is over at Land. Do we have anything next week? Oh, yeah.
Anything else on this council? Anything from administration?
We have several, we'll say several people out. Chief Barber, Chief Batiste, Joe Snowden, all with COVID.
They all have
COVID. Where did they get it?
Yeah, thanks.
We all import it.
I think they all got it different places, okay? But they're all on the back side of it and should be coming back to work here soon. But Ricardo's filling the gap right now.
Yeah.
Ricardo and Anitra, my bad.
They can valid, I just hadn't decided.
Good.
Now we see each other at 10:30.
Thank you very much.